What's up? What's up? What's up, guys? It's your girl Vic Ski is the Faith, and I am here with another episode of Cocktail Therapy, the podcast. And I have my boy Paul with me today, and we are going to talk about apology languages. This is something that I actually just recently learned when we did a live. What was this? Last week we did this live.
Yes.
He and Shamika and I were talking about some things when it comes to relationships, and he brought up apology languages, and I was like, oh my god! And it's not the first time he's done it either. He's talked about apology languages on one of the other lives that we did. He mentioned it in the comments. He is the quirky individual that's in the comments giving us his wisdom and knowledge and so on and so forth. Uh, so, welcome, Paul, to the show. Paul, I'm gonna let you tell a little bit about yourself this evening.
I am me. Uh, Thank you guys for having me. Paul Briggs, born in Covington, Louisiana. Um, Went to high school in Georgia, lived in Greece and Memphis and Virginia. I now live in Virginia. Yeah, I've been here for about a little over 15 years. So, yep. So, my day job is I have my own production company, Live Live Enterprises, and from there we have different offshoots. Azrael Media. We have um, oh god, I'm joined by DJ Acidic with the DJ stuff. We also have Archangel Couture, which is a clothing line. We got all other kind of imprints, but mainly with broadcast and electronic media going around the country helping produce games and events through the Azrael Media Portal for ESPN, Fox Sports, and a bunch of other folks. So that's what I pretty much do. Yep.
Yes. So thank you, Paul, for coming on the show. Paul has been a friend of mine for quite some time now. Since
I have my life.
since the oldest boy was a baby. Uh,
Right.
so 20 plus years, he has been my friend, and I, has a very great point of view on life just in general. So, of course, you guys do know that we actually have these conversations over drinks, and tonight I'm just doing a simple glass of wine. I think I got Stella Rosa Tropical Mango over here with me, chilling. Paul, I'm sure you probably drinking some water.
Niagara. I
H2O.
always say yes. I always say when y'all what you drink, I'll drink water. Water.
Water. So yeah, so we're gonna get
Spring water.
dive right in. You're so funny. We're gonna dive right in. The apology languages. Of course, we've all heard about the five love languages. And you know, we know the acts of service, the physical touch. I'm over here trying to do them
Quality.
all off the top of my head.
Words of
Uh,
affirmation, quality time,
Words of
and gifts.
affirmation, quality time. Is
And
one more
gifts.
we missing? Huh?
Gifts.
And
Gifts.
okay, gifts, acts of service, affirmation, words of affirmation, quality time, and physical touch.
Hmm.
So I kind of know what I dig on that end. Um, I'm an acts of service type of person. I like doing for people that are in my life, and this ain't just in a relationship. This is my friends in general. Like if you need me, I'm there, right? Um, and then I like words of affirmation. I think I like a little bit of all of them. I'm not really big on get no, and the reason why I say that is because I'm not super big on gifts, right?
I
But
know.
but because I really don't ever know because I'm so used to giving, so because I'm so used to being a giver, it's hard for me to figure out like what I want. So somebody were to say to me, "Hey, what do you want?" I feel like I might always pick the wrong thing or I don't know. Um, and so those are things that I don't. And typically when I'm in relationships, I'm not the person on the receiving end of gifts and things like that, right? Um, which I'm not necessarily messed up about. I'm not gonna lie to you. For whatever reason, because I'm a giver, I always end up with a guy who don't really believe in doing stuff like that. Like all the romance and all that stuff kind of goes out the door. Yes. So I end up with somebody who don't celebrate Valentine's Day, which I'm not really messed up about Valentine's Day if you are constantly doing things to show me that you appreciate who I am throughout the year. I can get behind it. But when you're not doing anything at all, it's just so yeah. Um,
Yeah, we wrong.
so right, and it ain't even about a gift, just something to show that you appreciate me being in your life or as a person. So I don't know how to necessarily receive. I just have a hard time doing it because I don't ever expect it to happen. Um, but at any rate, I figured out my love languages and I figured out how I operate in that space. But Paul had mentioned apology languages, and the same guy, this is the same guy who did the love languages, right?
Right, Dr. Gary Chapman. Yes.
Okay. Dr. Gary Chapman. Um, and so he talked about those. So now we have the 5 apology languages. So Paul wants you to kind of dive into those really quickly. We got the slide up, but I want you to kind of talk about those, break them down for me, so we can kind of get a gist of what everything is.
What I like to do actually is kind of back up and even just talk about how I stumbled on this.
Okay.
And also to Jennifer Thomas, she also co-wrote the book with about the apology language as well. Want to give that shout out. So
Okay.
I so for me, going back to the love languages, mine are gifts and words of affirmation. Um, I believe for me is that now everybody has some sense of the 5. It's just how important they are to you. I personally believe that there's 2 that's really important, and then there's one that kind of creeps up and down depending on what stage of life you're in. Uh, that one of them might kind of creep up a little bit more than the others, and then there's like 1 or 2 you just don't really care about at all. Um, yeah, so mine, like I said, is gifts, words, affirmation. And my one that's kind of creeping up and down right now is physical touch. And I think a lot of that, as a sidebar tangent, is me and the divorcee. Because when you're married, you used to having, physical touch and having sex, and all of that. Even though that wasn't mine,
Right.
um, it was just one of those things that now, once you become divorced and that's gone, cold turkey, it's like I miss that. Okay. Um, but how I got into apology languages is this was actually after my ex had left. My ex-wife had left, and we had gotten divorced, and my baby sister. I have a baby sister, 2 younger sisters. One is 3 years younger, one is 10 years younger. The one that's 10 years younger than me gave me a book to read
Okay.
during the holidays called, also by Dr. Gary Chapman, called "The 10 Things I Wish I Knew Before I Got Married."
Oh wow.
The thing was the timing. I'm like, you give me this book now after she's
Right.
gone.
We didn't think to do this when I was getting married.
Maybe that's when she discovered the book, from when she found out about the book. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm reading this book, and I want to say it was either, I want to say it was, like they have different titles in it, chapters in it called like, one of the things I wish I knew, that toilets was not self cleaning. Like, say if you grew up in a house where you are let's say you are a guy that's really into cars but don't really like fixing stuff around the house. And then let's say your wife is somebody who grew up where her father was a plumber and things like that. So when it comes to stuff that happened to deal with the bathroom, who's going to clean it? The guy may be like, well, I don't do that. That's what my mom and my sisters did. And that's how it was kind of in my household growing up. Whereas, I mean, we would clean the bathroom as kids, but, my mom would make sure it was up and up.
Clean. Yeah.
Whereas in the wife's family, she used to her dad doing it because her dad was a plumber. So now these 2 get married together. Something happens in the bathroom. What do? They both look at each other. The toilets is not going to be self cleaning. Somebody has to do
Right.
it. So
Right.
just lining up those kind of things. And so I want to say it's chapter 3, we talked about the apology languages. Man, I was on the plane. I want to say I was flying somewhere, flying to California, I think. And I was just so moved. And that's all I could read about was for the next 6 months. And I started delving into it. It actually was part of the reason why I got off social media for like 5 years. I shut down my Facebook account for 5 years because it was around the time when Kevin Hart got on Facebook and was apologizing for cheating on his wife. And it was like watching The Matrix for the first time because, first of all, social media does not allow for forgiveness or nuance or growth. But the only people, the people in the comments that were just going at him, going at him, going at him, depending on how they was going at him, I could see which apology language they have. And the only group of people that was defending him was the same one that had the same apology language as Kevin Hart. And you could tell by the verbiage, the way they say it. Um, and it was really something else. And I was like, wow. Because I think in anger, the thing is, they said there's a thin line between love and hate.
Mm-hmm.
And love, I think we can identify, again, we take some thought, oh, okay, well, how do I like to give love and receive love? And you had said it yourself, like acts of service. My way of expressing love is being there for people.
Yeah.
My way of showing love for me is either saying, giving words of affirmation or giving the gift, especially gifts. I'm a big gift guy. Um, and whereas when it comes to apologies, we double down on that even more. If that person is not speaking the same apology language, it's just gonna clash, and you're gonna be fighting, fighting, fighting.
It's gonna always
Um,
be a problem. Um, yeah, because I noticed I dated someone for like 4 years, and that particular person that I dated, um, he would deal with my car. Like I had never had a instance or a situation where I've been in a relationship where the guy was like, let me make sure you straight. Let me make sure you got this. You got some jumper cables in your car. Make sure your oil get changed. Here go my key. Here are the keys in my car. You just when you get off work, just bring me my car and I have everything ready. He'll clean my car, be mad at me, or make sure somebody gets a detail. Like that was a whole thing, right? If he
mhm,
did something else, if he did something that was not cool or disrespectful or just wasn't what I needed from him, it wasn't necessarily an apology. It was like, let me fix it by doing this, that, and the third. And for me, I have to hear the words and I also have to see the changed behavior. That's me. If I don't see a changed behavior, I start pulling away and I start pulling back. Okay.
mhm.
Because for me, in my mind, you are not truly sorry until you can change the thing that you do. But if you're constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting me to just stay in this situation, it's not good.
Right,
And I'm not going to do it. I refuse to actually. So, because it's hurting me.
right.
People don't realize that the things that they do hurt other people. So if you're hurting somebody, and you're constantly hurting them and you're ticking away, eventually that contributes to their mental stability at that point. You know what I'm saying? It contributes to a lot of things. And in order for me personally to be healthy, if I'm constantly saying, hey, we need to fix this, and you're not willing to fix it, I don't care that you took my car to go get an oil change, or you got it detailed, or you cleaned it out, or you made sure my tune-up was straight in my car. I don't care about any of that. But what I
Mhm.
do care about is you changing the thing that's the problem and the issue in the relationship.
Can I ask something? Can I interject something?
Mm-hmm.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
When he's doing all this stuff with the car, did he know at that point your love language was acts of service?
At that point in time, this was a while ago, I had not heard of love languages. So
Okay.
I didn't really know. I didn't know at the time what that was. Um,
Because the
I didn't know what that
demonstration
was. Huh?
because the demonstration of him making sure your car was good and all that. That's an act of service,
Correct. It is an
100%.
and I always say whenever I have a conversation about that relationship, I say the only time I really had somebody that I felt like not necessarily totally had my back, but actually cared about my well-being or making sure that I was okay was that person right there, because he would make sure those things were done and taken care of for me. So it wasn't, for me, it made me feel safe in a way.
Correct.
You get what I'm saying?
Correct.
Um, and so I always say that was a good thing about him, because I am the same way. I'm an acts of service type of person. So
Right. And
I
we
always say I
identify.
appreciate him for that. There were some other things in the relationship that just was not. And I don't know if he had heard about the um the 5 love languages or anything, because I don't know. I don't even know how old this is, but I didn't know about them at that time. So for me, I feel like had I known that could have been a conversation, but I don't think it would have fixed the other things that were wrong. You get what I'm saying?
Right,
Like
right,
it was
right.
yeah, and I think I stayed with him for as long as I did, because he was giving me an ounce of kind of what I needed, and there was a sense of security there, because again, my big thing has always been being safe and secure in a relationship, in a situation with somebody, right? If I feel like I'm not safe and secure with you, I pull back and I withdraw, and I walk away from the situation. And a lot of times, because one of my friends asked me um this past week, have you ever like been in a relationship with somebody just really, really dogged you out and you was gonna stay? I said no. Cause why? What am I doing? Tell me what I'm doing. You ain't never been in a relationship with somebody just really took you through there and you was determined to just not give up on them. I said no. I could, because at what cost am I doing that? You get what I'm saying? I'm hurting me.
Right.
I can love you from afar till you figure out your stuff and get yourself together. Because at that point, either if you want to continue to be in the situation or in a relationship with me, there's going to be some form of change that takes place and happen. I will help. I am willing to work with you through issues. I know everybody got issues, everybody got problems,
Right.
but I'm only able to work through it to a certain extent. When you're mean, when you're disrespectful, when it's just not, it's real out the way, I can't do that, because I'm not being that way to the person that I'm, and especially if I love you and you treat me like crap. Oh, I'm out the door. Like, why am I sticking? And a lot of people, and that's why I say we deal in struggle of. A lot of us deal in struggle of. We trauma bond, and that's how we end up getting together instead of I like you, you like me. Let's be intentional about making this work. And even in that intentionality, a lot of us still aren't intentional. A lot of us still have our own agendas. You get what I'm saying? And our
Mm-hmm.
own things that we kind of want, but we're not intentionally, we're not having conversations, we're not uh resolving conflict. A lot of people think that once you have sex, that erases all your problems, your situations, you can move on to the next thing. A lot of people feel that way, men and women. They think this is going to eradicate or erase the problem. It ain't. You know what I'm saying?
You got me in my mind. I got the Stefan Don "I'm Hurting Me" song playing in my head.
mm,
Cause you're hurting me. Yeah. So same concept, like what you're
yeah,
explaining. That
yeah,
whole thing of not having someone that's not making you feel secure and safe and all of that. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And,
very
and
real.
and let me say this. I'm not also going to say that women need to feel safe and secure. That man also needs to feel safe and secure in a relationship with you. It's not a one-sided situation. Like that
Mm-hmm.
security needs to be there from both. There's a different sense of security that, in my opinion, will come from a woman, that nurturing side, that encouraging side, that type of thing, versus that man side. And I heard somebody say this, that security is not money, it's infrastructure, right? It's it's the making sure that that person is okay. It's the actually taking care and consideration for that person's needs, actually being able to provide those needs for that person. So security is, a lot of people identify security with money. And of course, I say this all the time, baby, love is not gonna keep the lights on. So, you know, I'm going through it ain't. I promise to God, I cannot. It's 20 degrees outside. There is no way in the hell. I could be like, okay, I think if we just get together under this blanket, we're gonna make something pop and happen. No, 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 no. The light bill got to be paid. Now, is the light bill high? It absolutely is. I think it's highway robbery. But this heat is on. I'm warm in my home. I'm not fighting 20-degree weather. And of course, when it's cold in the house, sometimes it's colder in the house than it is outside. Just like in the summertime, it's hotter in the house than it is outside, right? I don't have to go through none of that, right? So I'm not saying that there doesn't need to be any type of financial stability in a relationship. And I'm not always necessarily saying that all is going to fall on the man. But what I am saying, because I believe in building together. That's what I believe in. I want multiple streams of income. That's what I want. So every day I'm working on things that's going to bring those things to play. I got a couple of businesses. I got the kids. I'm trying to get them started on their stuff. I want to get into real estate with my mom. You know, it's things that I want to do to bring in streams of income. So I don't have to strive. I've been a single parent for 22 years, 22 going on 23 years. It has not been easy for me. I've had to do this by myself, right? So with that being said, I've had some rough times and I've had some really good times. It has not been a crystal stair. So in my mind, if I'm dating somebody, I'm not looking for anybody to come in and take care of my responsibilities as far as my kids are concerned. They're my kids. But I would like to think that any man that's coming in my life is going to want to be here. And at this point, they're older. So be a mentor to them. You know what I'm saying? To be have some type of rapport with my kids, right? Like I said, the bigger boys, so they just want me to be happy. They don't care as long as you making mama happy and you're not going crazy, and we ain't gonna have to go to jail behind you doing anything crazy to my mama. They cool with you. They're gonna be cool in the fool with you, right? But if you are being disrespectful, if you are not doing what you are saying to do, or you just dealing with me in any kind of crazy way, they're very protective of their mama, and rightfully so, because they don't want me to be unhappy, which I don't think, you know, there's anything wrong with that. You know, I always tell them, mind your business, get out of grown folk conversation, all that stuff. But truly, I see a lot of parents that are in relationships, especially a lot of single parents in relationships that are not conducive to the well-being of their children. Because here's the thing that you have to think about when you're dating as a single parent. You have to think about the fact that your kids are watching that situation. And a lot of times relationships are learned behaviors, or how to be in a relationship is a learned behavior. So if I'm with Mr. Johnny and Mr. Johnny got a family over here and a family over there, and Mr. Johnny is popping in and out whenever he wants to, and Mr. Johnny is doing A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and it's not conducive to the well-being of my mama, as a young man, I'm gonna think that's how you're supposed to be. Or as a young woman, that's the type of man I'm supposed to accept, because that's all I know. And it's a subconscious choice that we make in relationships. And we getting off topic because I'm running my mouth. But back to
because I was trying to. I like, hey,
I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna bring it back. Right.
That's what I said. How the boys deal with your significant others through apologies when you do have conflict would be very telling.
Right. So these apology languages, because I know you said you read it in a book. Was it 10 things you need to know before you get married?
10 things I wish I knew before I got married. And they have a chapter of it, but they have a full-fledged book where they go in depth at all 5.
Okay. So let's dive into these apology languages. Let's talk about it.
Yes. So as we see, we have here on the screen, we have expressing regret, accepting responsibility, making restitution, plan change, and requesting forgiveness. Um, the thing about each one of the five is the genuineness of itself. They each are a genuine love language. Now, depending on the ones where it seems like it'll seem the most harmonious, is the ones where it seems like for both people, and they both have the same apology language. Now, and this is just me again. I am not licensed with the PhD or whatever,
We're not. Yeah,
but
we not. I'm
we're not
working
there.
on it. That's
So,
another. That's another stream I'm
right,
working on. But
we're-
I gotta get this other stream. I'm trying to get
right,
solidified first before I do that.
right. You got to start out with a tributary before you become a raging river. So anyway, um, I, for people with the love language in it, and again, because the love languages has been around a little bit longer than the apology languages, but it's like I think usually most times when people want to please their spouse, they can okay, well, what do my spouse like to do, or what like even though they may. I think the default person would be like, okay, well, this is how I love and how I receive love. Let me love them like that. Then they realize, it may not give the desired impact again unless they have the same love language. When it's somebody where you know what their love language is, okay, now I'm being intentional. Okay, I know they like this, or if their thing is quality time, let me take the day off, or let me leave early, so I can go home and be there and spend time with them.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to apology languages, because you're under the conflict of emotions of raging, people
Yeah.
are upset. You want to talk about emotional intelligence? I think it would be one of the highest form of emotional intelligence, especially if you're the one being the offender of saying, "Okay, I know my partner is upset. How can I best apologize to them that they would feel that I am apologizing, I am being sincere in it, and I'm apologizing in the way that they could accept the apology." Because too often we double down on. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen, whether it's in relationships or TikTok videos or just even videos on or movies on TV. Where it's like, well, I apologize. It's not my fault. They didn't like my apology. See, that's somebody with low emotional intelligence because they're
And
doubling down on what theirs is and not
yeah.
even taking into account what is my partner's. Because if we're going to make this harmonious, I need to make sure they understand, and especially if the receiver understands, and especially if it's something like, for example, if yours is, or if the offended person is playing change, and the other one is taking responsibility, it's like, man, that could be a lot for some people, just to own it, you
Yeah,
know,
a lot of people don't like to own it. Even and this ain't just in romantic relationships. This is with family. This is with friends. I
everything.
know a
You can
lot
use
of
it for
people who,
everything.
no matter how wrong they are, they right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like they right. It don't matter. It doesn't matter. You could say the sky is blue and they say now it's red, and just because they want to be right, they're going to believe that. They're not gonna say, you know what, the sky is blue, I apologize, I take responsibility for saying that the sky was red. None of that. They just have to be right even when they're wrong. And which is crazy to me, because like, how do you grow if you don't know how to apologize? One
Yes.
other thing, I try not to. I think this is with me getting older, because way back when and yonder, we was gonna talk about it right then and right there if it was an issue. So we finna nip this in the bud and blah blah. And it didn't matter how angry we were. We were gonna work it out. We were gonna fight it out, duke it out, and then it was what it was. But then stuff will be brought up, right? Or we go back to the argument because, well, when you said such and such, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, oh. So I've learned to not speak in anger. So
Yes.
sometimes I need a minute. Hold on. Even if I'm not the one who is the offender in the situation, right?
Right.
I'm like, okay, give me a moment, because what I'm finna say to you right now, you probably don't want me to say these things because it's gonna make the situation worse. So
Hmm.
give me a moment to gather my thoughts so that I can speak to you and we can have an adult conversation about what happened and how it doesn't need to happen again. I had a person who wanted to talk about it right then. I'm like, you want me to cuss you out? Because that's what's about to happen. Everybody in this house gonna be woke up, and I'm gonna cuss you out. You want me to do that, or you want me to give me a minute so we can have a conversation, and I'm in a place where I can emotionally be intelligent about this situation and have this conversation like a grown woman instead of 20-year-old Faith.
Yeah, because the thing is, we're not going to even include all the optics, as far as how will
Right.
this work, depending on where you're at, the proxemics, how close, if this is a conversation we need to have in person or we're having over the phone or whatever. Then you got with your vocals, the haptics. If you just gonna get loud and country loud, oh no, that ain't gonna be good. So you have all of those to add for. So going back to expressing regret,
Mm-hmm.
expressing regret is basically saying I'm sorry, and that's it. They mean it, but that's it. The thing about expressing regret is they feel like adding anything on kind of dilutes the apology, and they feel like they're in a state where it's like I'm sorry, and it's almost like they feel like they can't do anything else, and they feel like trying to do something else will either cheapen it or make it um, less desirable or less impactful.
Yeah.
So they just want to say, "Look, I'm sorry," and that's it. That's all you're gonna get. You're not gonna get any. You're not gonna get any taking responsibility. They're not gonna do anything for you with the restitution. They're not gonna give you no kind of plan of how they're gonna change the behavior, and they're not gonna ask you for forgiveness. They're not gonna do any of that. All they're gonna do is say, "Look, I'm sorry. And I'm going to let you know that I'm sorry." They feel important. So though these people, when someone would apologize to them, they want to hear that person was sorry. As long as they expressed that they were sorry,
Mm-hmm.
that's good with them. That's
That's
all they care
it.
about. That's it.
Wow.
Simple. Now for me, I'm like, that's it. Uh, but that's for that group. Accepting responsibility. These are people. I find that the one group of people that this is the hardest for, type A personalities, where you used to be in leadership, you used to be in control. This is one either they're really good at or they really fell at. It seems like a zero sum. It doesn't seem like it's like, they maybe not. No. Usually type A personalities know that when they butcher it, they're gonna let you know. And you do good, they're gonna let you know. So you never have to worry about where you stand with them. So I would say that be something with uh, accepting responsibility, making restitution. Again, these are for people who is like, yeah, I know you're sorry, but what are you going to do about it? How are you going to make this right? How are you going to replace this? I know that some things, like say for example, like time, you can't get time back.
You can't.
It's hard to restitute time because
You
once time
cannot
is
get
gone,
time
that's
back.
gone.
When time is wasted, you can't get it back.
You can't get
Absolutely.
it back. You can't cry over spilled milk. Now, maybe in a situation like that, maybe okay, well, let's look into salvaging what time we have left, depending on the situation. If it's let's say you have two people that's been in conflict, and then by the time they get back to come back together, one person is in a terminal state, ill state. Now, yes, the person that may have been doing the offender may apologize for wasting all this time,
Yeah.
and the person offended may be like, look, okay, I accept your apology, but for the time I have left, let's try to whatever.
Yeah.
And that would sound like an apology in that person's eyes. Because there's some stuff, and there's always nuance to each one, because you got the inner dynamics of whether these are work people, these are people or coworkers, people with your family that you have stuff that's been built up over years.
Yeah.
Um, 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 Prospective paramours, um, your kids, your staff, subordinates. Because one of the things I used to have is at one point, I would ask my staff, what is your love language? What is your apology? Now, it might look kind of weird I don't even want to care about my love language. Because what I wanted to be able to do was, when it comes times for rewards and stuff, I wanted to give them something that's going to pattern the show of my appreciation for them. Because again, gifts is my default. Like
Yeah.
I'll be the one that when I would go on a road trip, come back with a bunch of stuff to give to them, and I'm excited that I fought through customs and TSA to bring
Not
it back. And then
yeah.
we then we have the team meeting, Tuesday meeting. I give everybody their stuff, and by the end of the shift, that person might have just dropped it and kicked it up under the desk. Now I'm hurt and crushed. I'm like, man, you don't know me.
Right. Because they don't know. They're not operating in the same space that you're
Correct.
operating in. Yeah.
But this is the same person where words of affirmation was their love language. And this could have been the person where all I had to do was after the meeting, pull them to the side for a one-on-one and tell them, hey, you know what? I watched the game that you did while I was on the road. I was able to watch it. And I love the way that you directed the crew and was able to get the shot, the game winning goal, and how you had the multiple angles when you play back
Yeah.
and how you've been improving to that. I want to let you know I appreciate it and that you're doing a great job. And and keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. Pressure bust pipes and make diamonds. And that was a diamond. That was a classic play.
Yeah.
And that now that person's ready to run through a wall.
Yeah.
So that's what those nuances. So the same thing with the conflict. I said, we're gonna have conflict. So I said, that being said, I need to know how, as Major Payne would say, effectively neutralize the situation so that we could come to an understanding
Yeah.
of what it was. So with that one, so making restitution, that's my personal one. If you're a type A personality or people that's in leadership or power, I just want you to accept responsibility because each one, and I'll get into that, each one has its own kind of flaw. And there's a small flaw in it to where it
Yeah.
can be abused if you're not careful. Plan change, these are for people who needs help. Um, or they're a person that don't see boundaries or do not color in lines well. Or they'll go to 0 to 100. And by the time they realize it, it's too late. Then they say something they want, they didn't really mean to say. They just be spouting off at the mouth. Um, yeah. And then number 5 is requesting forgiveness. You have some people that feel like if you have not specifically asked them to forgive you, then you're not really sorry. It's not genuine at all. Um, for that person, they're going to need time to digest it, usually, especially depending on how heinous the situation is. I can see what a lot of times with 5, especially with families, if this is something that has been built up over time, where the person who's been offended might need time to process it. It might take a while.
Yeah.
Um, to where it's like, look, man, it's um yeah, but requesting forgiveness. I know, like you have the situation with, like for example, and I'll just use this on the side note. Tyrese's daughter. Tyrese had a daughter. I guess
Right.
where the mother was telling her um, fables or whatever to kind of, oh, your dad don't care about you and all this other stuff. But once the child turned 18 and was able to seek on her own and
Right.
realize, and
I
that's
think a
where the
lot of that happens with parents though. You have a lot of situations, especially when the father may have been providing and then he stopped. I think in Tyrese's situation, I think they may have gotten a divorce or something.
well,
And she wanted this extravagant amount of child support. And I get it. A lot of people's like, well, she needs a job or she needs to do this, she needs to do that. In a lot of those situations, when men are famous like that, they don't necessarily want their wife to work. They want the lady to stay at the house and take care of the house. So if
well,
you take me from me having a job or me having the responsibilities and I'm used to this lifestyle for however long I'm used to this lifestyle for, and all of a sudden you want to snatch it away because we're gonna get a divorce. I understand why they do that, but I also think that too, it's unfair to request it if your plan is to not. If that child is going to school every day and they're not at the house with you, you can get a job. You can go to work. You can go do something to contribute to your own well-being. In my opinion, that's just my
well,
thought process. I don't know that he stays in Georgia. Um, so I don't know in Georgia, they have you have alimony and all that stuff. I know how that goes. So even if you were awarded alimony for a certain amount of time, get your stuff together to where you can put yourself in a better, in another type of situation to where you can get that. I think it's unfair, but I really think it's unfair where when a parent is not doing what they're supposed to do, or because of your breakup, you're imposing that on the child, right? And
Right.
so then the kids get this idea of who their parent is instead of allowing them. I don't talk negatively about their dads. I don't. I You grown, you can see what happened because if you know that you're trying to reach out or you're trying to do this or you're trying to do that, and Josh's situation is a little different. But Jalen, and Jalen just like, oh, okay, well, if he call, he call. If he don't, he don't. That's his attitude, right? I don't
Right.
ever, I don't ever make it a point to try to go over and beyond. I was doing it a lot before because I'm like, you need to do this, and I always felt bad about to have to tell a grown person to be there for your child is like wow
Right.
to me, right? But I never once had those discussions with his child, and his child never knew what was going on up until now. He's a teenager. He got a better understanding of things, so he understands. My mom with me every day, my dad and I.
Right.
you know, uh, my mama at all these football games. My mama tried driving all across town, driving out of town, so we could do this or do that. And my dad's not like, so they see that, and I think eventually a child will see what is and what is not. In Tyrese's situation, I know he struggled. He really wanted to be there for his daughter. I'm sure the mama wouldn't have, she took him through regular baby mama changes. I think it's
Right.
bad when parents do that and impose their own conflict onto the child. It's not
Yeah, because
right.
now you add in the child, and then whatever the child. So now the child has two things they have to work through. They have to work through. Now, it's like you can have the mother feeling like, well, I'm now feeling betrayed by the child, and then so now that's a conflict, and
Right.
whatever the apology language you have to deal with that. The
Right.
child is going to have to deal with that at some point, dealing with the mother, and then the apology language the child is going to have, and then obviously as we've seen with pictures and stuff of both the Tyrese and the daughter reconnected, which means there was an apology language that had to go on
Right. Right.
in order for that that relationship to be
Mended.
repaired. Yeah,
Yeah.
repaired and amended. So that's where the beauty of the apology languages really come in when you have two whole consenting adults or grown people. I mean, even as a teenager, you can pretty much get it together. It's just a state of mind. It's just like if I'm aware of what mine is, I'm aware of what theirs is. How can we go about getting this done? Especially if both people actively want to be. Now I understand maybe there's some lines, with certain things like say SA and stuff like that, where okay, well, or abuse and stuff. When you get to the line, okay, when you cross this line, I can't deal with you. Now,
Correct.
that person may come back and apologize, or whatever, but that doesn't mean from that point on that relationship may be mended to where it be restored. It may be just to a point where I go my way, you go your way, and we go at peace.
So let me ask you this, and this is your
Yeah.
personal opinion, personal feeling. Do you feel like, well, I know this for me, this is not the case, but do you feel like an apology always fix things? There are little memes and situations going around where somebody says when somebody apologizes to you, that doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to go back to the way that they were prior to the apology. So do you believe in situations that an apology fixes it, or
I think apology helps, especially the person who is doing well. Let's put it this way. I think the apology helps more than it hurts because there are certain questions that there's always certain things in life as people that you may always want the answers to that you're never going to get, or you want that father or that spouse or that family member or that friend or that cousin or whoever, roommate, whoever, to apologize for something they did years ago, and they don't even be thinking about you. You still hurt and offended. They done moved on with their life. Um, but that's why I say I think apologies help more, because to get to the point to where I have to apologize to someone, that means I have come to a conscious awareness that I have offended someone that either loved me, cared about me, trusted in me to do something, business partner, something, whatever. And I am apologizing for what transpired. Now, what where it can get dicey is, now it just depends on what is the intent of the person apologizing, the offender. Do the offender want to make it right to the standpoint of, hey, I want to reestablish a connection with you? Or is that, look, I just want to apologize for what happened? Because especially if it's anything time based, you can't get that back. So it's
No,
like,
you
look, we
can't.
just have to let bygones be bygones. But I want to apologize and let you know as a man that, X, Y, and Z, that, what happened was not cool. I apologize for my parts in it, or what I did, or my lack of action, whatever it might have been. And we just decide to go for it and be at peace. Because the Bible talks about be at peace with all men. So that's one of the things we should strive for. So I think that's where that part comes in. It really, like you said, you have the interpersonal dynamic. If it's in something with, like, say, work, this is where you're dealing with HIPAA laws and HR, whatever, depending on what the offense is. You two may never be in a working situation again, or one person may have to take what is it, take time off without pay or whatever, or with pay, on suspension. It just depends on what it is. Now if you stole like a pen out of my drawer or something, like, hey, the pen, I'm sorry, I took your favorite pen, I apologize. That's different, versus you got us caught up in something that is fireable offense. Okay, that may be a little bit different. Um, but it just depends on what the nature of the relationship. If it was boss, superior, subordinate, what is the dynamic of the relationship of the offended party and the offender, the offended and the offender, and
Right.
that kind of, to me, determines a lot of where does the relationship go from here, because this is where, because sometimes as the offended party, I may be wanting to establish a relationship, but the other person is still so caught up in the guilt. Because I've had this happen with the coworker of mine, where we both like the same girl. Actually, I liked her first, and he knew that. And I guess because I was too square, or the girl felt I was too square, she decided to sleep with my coworker. And me and my coworkers, I would like to say we was friends. Um, and I knew that he slept with her. Holy Ghost told me. I knew it. I was just wanting him to admit it and own it,
Right.
because I know there was nothing to me that he can do to make it right. And just like, because restitution, I just wanted him to take responsibility for it.
Well,
And it was one of those things that I wanted him. And when he finally confessed, and I forgave him. And I told him, I said, because I understood, even though at the time I wasn't married, I wasn't divorced. He had always told me, he said, Paul, it's tough once you become married and then you become divorced. You used to having sex and you're not used to it. He loved, he said, man, sex was great, but not with her, but, just talking about just period. And but he was like, because he said, Paul, it was so bad. He said, and the guilt, the biggest thing was the guilt.
so question. Hold on.
Yeah.
He knew that you liked the girl.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's the part of the story I was missing. Okay.
Yes.
So he
Okay. Yeah.
knew you liked the girl, and then
Right.
the girl chose him. I'm confused.
So what the girl decided to do was approach him just to be like a one night stand kind of thing, because she kind of felt like I was too square, because I wasn't going to, like, sit up there and have premarital sex and all of that. Yeah, so she felt like she knew that I liked her and she liked me, but she just
Mhm.
really wanted to get her rocks off. That's really what it came down to.
And you weren't willing to get her rocks off, Paul. That's crazy.
Because
No,
my thing was I
I,
wanted to
I
stay a
know
virgin
you
till
actually
I got
liked
married.
her.
That's
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and
I
and
got
that
you.
was my thing. And so
Yeah.
now, if you ask me now, 20 some years later, what I've done to say that,
Paul said I would have gave her what she wanted.
oh God. That's a whole other thing.
Thought
That's a
I would have
whole
gave her what she wanted.
But anyway,
Oh Lord, I don't holler tonight. Okay.
I, but I will say this, and this is where you want to talk about the power of restoration, redemption, and what was I had? It was three R's: restoration, redemption, and like with forgiveness. There was another one, but anyway. So what ended up happening was is so, and when he finally admitted it to me, and I said I knew all along. He's like, "How do you know?" I said, "The Holy Ghost told me." He said, "I knew." I was just wondering because from the level of what you told me, and the fact that she didn't call me, like there was a day we were supposed to go hang out, we didn't, and I called her, she didn't answer her phone, and it
Mm-hmm.
was in my spirit. I said, it was just crazy. I said, I told the guy, I said, you was in my spirit, and I called you, and you didn't answer. And so I called you twice, called her back, she didn't answer, called you back, you didn't answer. And I sat there and I was like, let me send a text because he never not called me back. And I was
Right.
just sitting there. I was like, dude, because he wouldn't look at me. This was over the weekend, and then we come back in for Monday for work. He
Man.
wouldn't look at me at all. He wouldn't look me in the eye, and I was just sitting there. And I think it took him like 2 days, 3 days before he finally admitted it. That like, yeah, I slept with him, man. And that guilt was all over him. And I was like, man, I told him, I said, I just wanted you to own it. But that told me more about her because I said, she just comes and go. I said, I know you. Her, she was just somebody that came and gone, and it was matter of fact, what was so bad, what was so bad was is that he was like, yeah, man, the sex was so bad. He said, and I kept thinking of you. And he said, and I felt doubly bad. He said, he said it was a double whammy that the sex was just. He said she just laid there. She didn't even like do it. She just wanted to lay there. Just let me do all the work. I'm like, well, all right, John Henry, go.
Oh my God.
But what the now this is where the power of redemption and restoration comes in. So we made up, and I have forgiven them, right? So now, but because of the group that we worked in at work, the word started getting out, not from me or him, but mainly from the girls because she worked in another area, one of them
So she
areas that they were.
talking? She kissing and telling?
I guess so. But anyway, she. Let's put it this way: she didn't come and address me no more after this incident, right? And so it started getting out what happened, and now he's catching flack. My coworker is now catching flack from the other women on our job
Oh
because it was like,
wow.
oh,
They coming for him.
yes, especially in Memphis at FedEx, you know how this goes.
Oh wow.
Man, and he's now even just feeling worse. And I told him, I said, dude, I said, don't worry about it. I said, because I already forgive it. The main person you had to be worried about was me.
It's me, not everybody else.
And
That's
not everybody
crazy.
else. I said, as long as I have forgiven, God has forgiven you, I have forgiven you.
You
That's
good,
all that
bro?
matters. The rest of them,
Yeah.
you just have to let them be what it be. Now,
Wow.
now this is part of the ramifications, but see, this is what apologize because he felt like now you're trying to apologize to everybody. Now you're doing it for
That apology wasn't for them.
right. It wasn't for them. It was, for me. And then there was a few of the ladies that I had to tell them, look, let them go. I'm good with it. God is good. We prayed about it and all of that,
And you
and you
good.
and good. So that kind of helped shield him in that walk of. Now if he was doing this, now that don't mean now that meant that going forward, I wasn't just gonna bring any girl that I liked around. Nah, I wasn't gonna do that now.
No, because we don't want to be a fool. Let me. I have a story, and then I'm gonna we gonna wrap it up. I'm talking. I took the quiz, so I'm gonna share the quiz, the site or what have you for everybody. So I was an undergrad when I was dating a guy, and he was dating me and another girl at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And so, but I didn't know. So let me some background. Me and this girl had always been cool with each other, but we like got a little close on this trip that we went on. We went on a trip and we were cool. So we got to talking about the guys that we were dating. She was actually engaged to be married to somebody back home. That's what she told me. So I'm just saying, oh my God, he's so this and he's so that. I'm just talking about dude, and he's just this and he's that and he's just this wonderful human being. And he had pledged and I wanted to get him something for he had just crossed that year. And I wanted to get him something, something really nice or within my budget, but something to, because I didn't really get to get him anything when he crossed. Because we in college, broke college student, no big deal. So so I had trip money, so I earmarked some money to buy him something for, pledging. So we talked about it actually, and this is what's real ironic. This helper helped me pick out the gift to get him. Ooh, I just thought about that. Okay, so that's neither here nor there. So he dated her and me, and Lil Mama and him were out at Applebee's. So if you know, I went to Jackson State, and Jackson is not, you can fit Jackson in Memphis. It's right. A big old circle, so it's not big. And so me and my homegirls had just left the movie theater. We talking, we cracking up, we cracking jokes, we doing our thing. And they all of a sudden get quiet. I'm running my mouth. They get quiet and they looking over to our right. Now, this is the lights. This is Applebee's over here. Keep in mind, this particular individual is from a state where their tag is extremely loud. It was only 2 people in the whole city of Jackson with these tags, okay? The other person had a bright red car. So my homegirls look over to the right and they get quiet. And what my friend that's driving is like, oh my God, I need this light to change. I need this light because they think I'm going to jump out the car and wow out. Now keep in mind, my bark was bigger than my bite, but I was a little crazy, okay? But my bark is bigger than my bite. So I wasn't finna jump out no car and run across the street and act no fool. I wasn't gonna do that. I might have embarrassed you on campus or something, but I wasn't gonna do that. No. It took too much energy. Too much. So I see him and he opening the car door for this girl to get in the car. I said, oh my God, I know you are lying. You can look like that all you want to, but no, Paul, I was not the bust the windows out the car type of girl. I always thought that was stupid. And I think that's stupid to mess up somebody's transportation because I don't want mine mess. I want nobody to come keep my car. I want no sugar in my tank. I want none of them things to happen, right? I don't want that because I got to get back and forth. So I always thought that was stupid or dumb. I had a homeboy. Oh Lord, that's a whole nother story for another time. This girl was on him in his car. He had the car parked next to the guard shack on campus, and that girl had taken all 4 of this man's tires off his car. Too much energy, okay?
And next to the guard shack?
That life, huh?
And it's next to the guard shack, and the guard did nothing?
Next to the guard, and the guard said, girlfriend was cold-blooded. I told them, like, hey, if you give me $100 and some brass knuckles, I will whoop her ass for you. I said that to him. Because at this point, this was ridiculous. I said, now, you know you wrong for whatever you did to that girl. That man would go in the mall, his tires would be slashed when he come out the mall. Like, it was all kind of crazy stuff. I'm sorry. I have digressed.
These are people who have apology languages have never been worked.
So me and the guy ended up, we decided we weren't going to see each other again. I didn't talk to him for an entire semester. I didn't talk to him. We were in the same friend group. So if he was there and I was there, he tried to speak to me and I would act like he did not exist. I was not talking to that man. I don't even know how we started back talking. But I'm talking as friends because I didn't date him after that ever again. Because once you cross that line, I'm done. I don't return back to the scene of the crime. But the restitution in it all, because I feel like when you do people wrong, that karma or that reap what you sow thing is going to come back. She never apologized because you knew what you did. I learned a very important lesson in that don't be telling no random chicks about your dude, because they gonna come in, and they gonna come in for the kill if they have to, or if they want to. And I feel like that was a whole setup. Now he didn't know anything about that part of it, but I knew. I said, oh, this calculated heifer right here. I don't know what sparked this, but you did this, sis. It's all on you. So the problems that she started having with him were the same problems I started having with him when he started seeing her. Then his friends were not cool with her because they they peeped game, and they knew what was going on. So so
But
you
he's
got it
catching
back,
hell.
huh?
He's catching hell from everybody in the circle. Yeah.
Well, they didn't bring it to him, but they mistreated her as a result of they already knew what was up. Like, why you do that girl like that for her? Like, explain to me what you doing. That was a whole thing. So it was a mess. I didn't like it. But I learned something. Like, I would not do that again. I think he apologized. He ended up apologizing. But typically I like to see change. It was no change for him to have, because at that point I was done with that situation. So I didn't give him an opportunity to make it right or anything like that. But yeah, no. So I'm a true believer. I don't have to get you back. I'm not my deal. I ain't got to get you back right then. I believe the Lord's gonna take care of you. It might not be tomorrow, but God is gonna take care of you if you do somebody wrong. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think something's going to happen that is not going to work out in your favor. So I took this quiz, and everything was pretty even for the most part, huh? But Playing Change was the one that I scored the highest on. It was, like I said, it was an even mix. Request forgiveness, making restitution, expressing regret, accepting responsibility was the lowest. I don't have a problem with accepting responsibility when I do something wrong. I literally don't. I think I implement a lot of these steps. Sometimes you can't, in my opinion, you can't really make restitution for whatever it is that's done. But I do think that your change is true signs of showing that your apology is true and real, in my opinion. So if you constantly, like I said earlier, if you're constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you just apologizing to me, but you're not changing what it is that you're doing that's causing me the hurt and the pain, then you're not really sorry for what you did. That's how I feel. That's 100% wholeheartedly how I feel.
I would say Plan Change. One thing about Plan Change is what makes Plan Change tough is
actually doing it.
Well, I mean, and this is where I think a lot of it comes to a personality type, which that's a whole nother thing, the Myers-Briggs personality types, which that's a whole nother quiz.
Right.
I think, and then for, like I said, I've known you probably about half my life, almost half my life, if not half.
Yeah.
If not half. You strike me as the type of person as I'm willing to work with you if you're willing to work with me.
I am very much that person.
And Plan Change is one where steps and stuff and safeguards and boundaries and all kind of stuff have to be put in order. And it has to be something where the opportunity for either the demonstration that the changes happen will occur, or it has to be something to where the act in and of itself or whatever causes conflict is repetitive enough that there can be change that you can physically see and document. Yeah. Because the problem with Plan Change is if it's something where, again, I'm using time as an example. Time is kind of a little bit where it's like you can decide, okay, from this point on, I'll use a local one here in Virginia, Michael Vick. For some people, they have accepted his apology because of what he has done in his life since the whole dogfighting incident. And all of the actions and stuff that he's done
and since they have demonstrated. I still believe Pookie and Ray Ray them was doing them dog fights, and Michael was minding his business elsewhere. But that's neither here nor there. You know,
Right. That's a whole nother one. Yeah.
you fight a dog, you know, they gonna crucify you to a cross.
Right.
Go ahead.
But you also got to
I'm
taking
just
this
saying.
dynamic. There is one group that has still have not officially forgiven them, and that is Peter. Peter is the
Is
only
that
one
who?
left. Yes. The
And that's
Humane
who?
Society, Peter.
Yeah, they're not gonna forget him.
Do you know why they won't forgive him?
Can I say it on here?
Well, this is your podcast. I mean, just don't know you guys. This is your podcast.
You tell me why they won't forgive him.
Because of where he's from.
Where? Okay, I know he's from some part of Virginia.
Yes, he's from this area, the 757, Hampton Roads, the seven cities. They have
Right.
Tidewater, they have all these nicknames.
Yeah.
The reason why I say is because Peter's international headquarters is here in Virginia, in Norfolk.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
That is when I explain to people, because to them it's more than just the fact that what you did with Dolphin. You're from here. You should know better. It would be akin, and this is how I would say probably for my Memphis people, this would be like somebody deciding to put graffiti on Graceland, or somebody spray painting. What was the door 214 in the Lorraine Motel 213? What was the room that Dr. King was in when he got shot?
I should know this because I know Black history, and I'm coming up on a blank. But if they went and spray painted the Civil Rights Museum,
Right.
yeah,
Like you like the hellfire, and you from Memphis, the hellfire you're going to catch because why? You're from here. You know what this means to us. That
yeah.
is why they have not. That's because
I mean, but you
it's
know what?
more
Too,
than the embarrassment of the
and
act
that's
itself.
fine, and that's fine because so it which is it's fine because they don't necessarily have to forgive him.
They don't.
Mike is doing his thing, regardless, in spite of that happened how many years ago. That's fine, y'all ain't got to. And the other part
Of
of this
course.
too is, did Mike grow up in a well-to-do area? Did he grow up in the hood?
Grew up in the hood. He went to Warwick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's
So
my other
yeah,
thing. Hold on. Here's
that
my other thing. Michael may have known or may not have known, because when you in the hood, who knows where the Humane Society? I didn't know where the Humane Society was. Y'all probably do up there. I don't know. I just feel like y'all need to let that go. Because again, Pookie and Ray Ray them, Michael bought the house. Michael probably bought the dogs. Pookie and Ray Ray them was up there fighting them dogs. I keep telling people that. Y'all don't want to believe me. That's fine. Pookie and Ray Ray.
Ignorance is not an excuse in the Commonwealth.
And that's
They don't.
fine. It don't have to be. I'm just telling you who it was that was actually fighting the
I
dogs.
we
And
we
Mike
we
had to take the fall because Mike is the
right.
famous person.
Right. We understand because and you're not even in the city. You're in Surrey County,
Mhm.
which is the county on the other side, and you have
Mhm.
all this land and areas for where,
Mhm.
and it's just the whole. And the thing that I found more baffling was you're not going to ever in this enterprise make more money than your livelihood. This wasn't some whether illegal or not. You never was going to make enough money
No,
to.
again, he
So
funded
what?
it, gave it to his boys, and his boys did what they did. That's all I'm saying.
Now again. Edge is Michael's stand-up guy, so he took the fall because he understand taking responsibility with his. But that plan changed, which is why for what your ASPCAs, your humane societies, and different shelters, one by one. Now it wasn't immediate because it took years for some of them. Now
Right.
finally, well, we're talking about now almost 20-some years
Yeah, I know.
later, and even to the point when he got hired, they had to put it in the news report because literally down the street from Channel 3 is Peter. And they wrote it. They were not. There are people that are planning to picket his first game. His first game here. There will be people that will be there to pick it. There will be some people in this area. They will never forgive him.
Or
And they
why?
have and they,
Let
because
them
you're
black children
supposed
play football. I'm tired.
and
Y'all.
I'm just saying it's just one of those things. Is for some people, especially in this area in Virginia, it's the unforgivable sin. We don't care. You just
That's
now, granted, I
crazy.
will say this: growing up in the bayou, I have uncles and stuff that grew up doing dolphin. Now, that wasn't my cup of tea. I will say, yeah, so that wasn't my cup of tea. But I can understand why you can be caught up in the whole world because, again, we live in two different Americas. But
Yeah,
I
we do.
digress. I
Yeah,
digress.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it is one of those things. It's very real here. So,
That's
but
really
because
crazy.
of his plan change and what he have done, that's where I think for some people, just in case of
So,
somebody in the chat want to ask me what Kevin Hart's apology language is, his was the expression regret. Because when he came on the chat for cheating on his wife, he was just like he was just saying, "Look, I'm sorry, I can't really do anything about it. I'm doing this was one of the conditions she wanted him to do, which
yeah.
was to get on here and apologize or whatever. And and the only people that was offending them was people who had the same apology language, which was expressing regret, but they getting buried by the
Well,
old form.
let me say this, and I think with Kevin Hart's situation, I think that you know, I think he also accepted responsibility, but I also think he didn't have a choice but to accept their responsibility because the friend or whomever that betrayed him, that did the tape or whatever, or taped him for the extortion situation, that was a thing, right? So that's really how he got caught. He didn't have a choice but to accept the responsibility. Of course, he expressed that regret. He also had a little bit more to lose at that point because Kevin had been caught up in some other scandals at that point in time too, right? We saw the situation
Mm,
with the he was gonna host the Oscars, and then they wanted him to apologize. He had already apologized for some statements that he had posted on Twitter about the LGBTQ community. They were
right,
still on him about the
right,
old tweets they resurfaced, and he was like, I keep apologizing for the same thing. So he was frustrated. I ain't got to host the Oscars. I'm good on it. Y'all good? Because I keep
right,
apologizing, and it's like y'all are not accepting the apology. He said, I've grown. Those tweets were made 10 plus years ago prior to the
right,
Oscar thing. Um, and I think sometimes people don't know how to let go
right.
and accept an apology. He didn't make
But
the apology begrudgingly. He was it was very heartfelt. Kevin got people that are in his life that has educated him about their community. It's no different than Dave Chappelle making the jokes that he makes. And of course, Dave has come under fire, but Dave is a controversial comic, right? Um, People make mistakes, and what people don't seem to want to do is forgive them for the mistakes because we are people. We're
mm,
humans. We're not perfect. So
mm.
when things happen and things come up, it's a whole thing to keep having to apologize.
this
Uh
is this is why I feel like social media has been a hindrance to that part because now everyone has their own opinion and people like to live voraciously through others.
yeah,
And you have those heroes, like for example with Hogan and the whole racism thing, and now they feel so offended. Not only can they feel like they can't support you, that even if you apologize, you're not apologizing to them per se. So it's a personification that it's like you're always going to have someone. And to Kevin's point, I understand of the apology. It will almost be like if I was to craft it for you, I would craft it intentionally mentioning all the five. So at least at some point, even if you feel like whether you felt like it wasn't sincere or not, you can at least say, I tried to reach out to what your apology language
yeah,
was, and I
yeah,
tried to make the effort. And I think that's where that conflict comes in. Because and then you got the whole thing of Misery Love Company or whatever. Like we had
you got cancel culture.
right, which oh my god. It's to the point, it's like I sit here and especially in sports, I've seen it bleed into sports to where, like for example, there was a quarterback um, who had a career game during the playoff game. It was in a loss, but had a career game. I had tweeted about this quarterback maybe 7 years prior to another colleague about this quarterback. The night that quarterback had his coming out party, for lack of a better term,
Mm-hmm.
the game is over, was like 11 o'clock or so. I get an email hit from Twitter like at 2:41 in the morning, 2:41, 3:41 in the morning, saying someone liked the post that I had made 7 years earlier. Then what ends up coming out the next day is, oh, this quarterback, when he was now the quarterback is like 26, 27 years old. Oh,
Yeah.
this quarterback, when he was 17 years old, or no, 15 years old, on Twitter, said something about black people and da da da.
Yeah.
And here we go. You see what I'm saying? And I'm sitting here and I'm screaming to the hills. I was like, really? Like, you had people that wanted to, on this guy's highest night, wanted to, let's go, we can go find something. Let's go dig something that we'll find a weak moment and then just come bring the hammer. Because misery loves company. I'm jealous that you got to a position I never had a chance to.
Yeah.
What makes you think you so good? Oh, you ain't all that. We
Yeah.
deify our heroes. I mean, whatever the reason was. And then
Right.
it's to this point where this man got to have a person. But and you start seeing it with Josh Hader. You start seeing it with all of this stuff. It's like the thing I hate that is going to become more normalized from here on out. That anybody who makes it, I don't care if it's Jelly Roll or whoever, if you become an overnight sensation, the first thing within 24 hours, the network is going to try to find something to dig up. And it just depends on how flimsy it is or solid it is. Find something to where to try to make you kowtow for whatever reason. It's just whatever interest group that want to be mad at you for the. That's why I said, you know what? I don't need this. I told my staff, I said, I don't need social media. I said, now I understand how y'all can't grow up without it, but I'm like, this wasn't around for like the first 25, 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
walk off from this.
Yeah.
Y'all can have this. This is for the birds.
Yeah.
And so it ain't that deep. So, yeah, but I was going to do this exercise, but I was going to say about, I was going to give you a rundown scenario, but I think everybody kind of gets what all the nuances of each of the apology languages is. Um, but yeah, but plan change. I'm glad that you took the test. I'm glad that you know kind of like more what yours is, and you strike me as somebody that's willing to help someone. But that person needs to be helped because, like I said, with plan change, I used the example before on the first Suicide Squad when
Mm-hmm.
they had the scene in the bar when the guy, the pyro fire guy, he's explaining for what happened as far as killing his wife and his child.
Yeah.
And his was a plan change because he goes from 0 to 100. By the time he realizes it's too late, he'll cross
Right.
line
Right. Right.
the
Right.
boundary. And Harley Quinn was like, "You need to own that." Beep, 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 beep.
Mm-hmm.
So hers is taking responsibility
Right.
to it. And so it's just that whole dynamic with that because you strike me as the type of person that you're willing to work with them. Like in the case of, let's say, in the example that I use is like, let's say me and you was going out for dinner, and I was supposed to pick you up at 7 o'clock, and I ain't called you till 8:30. And by the time, if I tell you, hey, I'm having problems, staying focused on time and stuff like that. Can you like send me a text or help me? Like I have something in my phone, but just send me a nice reminder. Hey, I'm looking forward to having you at night. Some power. So to help keep me, because I need help with this, because that other person is asking you for help. That's
Yeah.
all part of the plan change.
A
So they're
lot of
asking
people
for help.
don't
Like, look,
ask for
I
help though.
realize.
Yeah, a lot of people don't ask for help with those things. So, and for me, if somebody says to me, "Hey, this is an area that I'm struggling in," I am very willing, and we're gonna wrap this up because this is only supposed to be for an hour. Um, I am very willing because I believe in a relationship, you are supposed to work through whatever issues that you may have, whatever conflict that you may have. So for me, I'm a very forgiving person till I'm not, right? So that, and that's why I feel like if I give you ample opportunity to fix what's wrong, and you have no intentions of doing that, or you don't plan on fixing it, then it's time for me to roll from or remove myself from that situation. And I'm very good at removing myself. A lot of times when I was younger, I used to remove myself a lot earlier than I've had recently here. Um, I am very good at that. If I don't fit in your life, or I don't see where I fit in your life anymore, I'm gone. I'm out. That's just what I am. But I try to give you ample opportunities. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk. Let's work it out. What do we need to do? What do I need to do? What do you need to do? Let's work
Mm-hmm.
on getting those things together so that we can make this work. But if you have no intentions of working it out, what am I doing? Why am I? I'm not going to fight for something, and you ain't fighting for it. So,
Yeah.
so I think, with that being said, I think that people need to be realistic about what it is that they want in situations, and be okay with walking, with exiting, with walking away. Be okay with that. Absolutely be okay with walking
Mm-hmm.
away and getting on down. Because if that's not a situation that serves you any longer, you need to be gone. Doesn't mean you love that person any less. Doesn't mean that you don't forgive that person. I
Right.
can forgive you from afar, but if um you constantly keep disrespecting certain boundaries, you have no intentions of doing it. And in a lot of situations, for me, all you have to do is apologize and show me that you're willing to work it out and move forward. And if you can't apologize, I don't even know what we're doing. I don't. And that's with friendship, that's with family, that's with anything.
Mm-hmm.
My sister and I had a disagreement. And we didn't talk for real for like 2 or 3 months. She was wrong. She was wrong. And the way she apologized, I was like, I'll take it, because it takes a lot to get you here. You the baby of the family, so it takes a lot for you to get here. But
Mm-hmm.
and I accepted her apology, but I had to explain. We had to have a conversation about what was going on. I didn't take sides in the situation at all. I didn't take sides in the situation. In my opinion, both people were wrong in the situation. One person was wrong for what they had did previously, and she was wrong for how she was dealing with them at that point in time. So I'm telling them, hey, but I'm telling both of them, you're wrong. You need to fix it. You wrong. You need to fix it. Right? You know,
Yeah.
I care
It's
about both of y'all. I love both of y'all. I don't want this energy in my house. You
yeah,
don't have
because
permission to do this. Yeah,
especially when you're dealing with family, that the chronemics
right.
of dealing with family, it
Yeah,
adds so much more nuance or layer, because just apologizing to that person in the apology language probably ain't gonna be enough. You're gonna need some extra work on it,
yeah.
because it's yeah.
So, and like I said, we squashed it. It's over with and done with. But and it's completely done with, because the other person is no longer in the picture. But in
Mm-hmm.
my in my mind, I think that we all need to kind of look at that and see how we are different in those areas. And I think if
Mm-hmm.
people realize what their love languages are, and what their apology languages are, I think we would have healthier relationships.
Now let me
Uh,
ask you this: since
mhm.
you said your sister, it took a lot for her to get that. What do you think then was her apology? Knowing what you know now of the five, what do you think is hers? Because that will help you in the future when another conflict or something was arise down the road, that you could say, okay, because all you got to do is listen
Um,
to folks when they talk, and it's just like cutting it through night and day, like, oh, that
I don't. So let me say, I think in this situation, she accepted responsibility. I
okay,
don't know that is her. I don't know that that's her apology language.
okay,
But in this instance, she accepted responsibility.
okay.
Um, it wasn't expressing regret. It was She didn't make restitution. Um,
She didn't
It
give you no
wasn't. Let me.
playbook
I'm
of
gonna ask
how.
for your forgiveness, and it wasn't even a situation to where we could have a plan. It was literally she accepted responsibility for it, and I think that was big for her to do. I really do.
Okay.
I do.
I'm going to say because the fact that you said it was just a lot to get her here, I'm thinking that accepting responsibility has to be because or at
Yeah.
least like you say in this situation, I would definitely peep that because for
Yeah.
people, if it takes a lot for them just to even admit that it was wrong, usually accepting
Well, no, I'm
responsibility
saying
is
in that situation, it took her a lot. It took a lot for her to get there in that particular
okay.
situation.
Okay.
We like I said, we didn't really talk. We talked, but it wasn't the same for like 2-3 months because that situation took place and it kind of got blown out of proportion and it didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to go there, right?
Yeah.
So, and I love her. That's my ace moon coon always, but
Right.
again, that was a situation that was unfortunate. It didn't need to happen. It shouldn't have happened at all, period.
Right.
On both ends. It just shouldn't have happened.
Mm.
So, yes. Thank you guys for joining us. We done went over. This is only supposed to be an hour, so I hope y'all stay for this whole conversation because it's a really good conversation about apology languages. Make sure y'all are following Cocktail Therapy, the podcast, over on Facebook and on YouTube. Make sure y'all are checking out. Now that TikTok is back, I'm wondering if they're gonna let me make another account for Cocktail Therapy. We'll see. Because my child didn't do what I asked him to do when I asked him to do it. But make sure y'all check this out. Every Wednesday, we go live at 6 p.m. On Wednesdays. And it's uploaded the next day onto podcast platforms. And I actually am behind on uploading those. So that's what we will be working on tomorrow, uploading these podcast episodes to the podcast platform.
So that would be your Martin Luther King service, act of service.
It's gonna kind of be. I got some errands I gotta run tomorrow, but it's definitely gonna be up there. But make sure y'all do check us out on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Paul, how can anybody reach you if you're interested in them reaching you?
They can reach me by prayer. Uh, I've always said, I can be reached Pe Briggs 2 at I'll say Gmail because I do have a Hotmail, but that's
Oh
and,
Lord.
and it's still yes, November
Mm-hmm.
1st, 1977. 1997. 1997 is when I
Gotcha.
heard those. So I would say PEBriggs2 at gmail.com. Funny about the social medias, I have a birthday coming up end of January, and I think I'm going to do another shutdown, social
Oh
media
wow.
shutdown. So I would say probably the best bet would be I think I'm going to keep my Instagram at Live Live Online. The Twitter, I'm not sure. I think I'm
I'm
just going
not on X
to
like that. Yeah.
yeah, it's just the rhetoric. I just, it's like the Sentinels breaking in and then
Mm,
into Zion. It's not. There's no police. It's You have just it's a bad. It's getting beyond scary.
yeah.
Um, to the point where it's like I don't want to be sitting here being the canary in the coal mine, and I don't want to be the one that turns the light out on the way out either. I ain't got to stay here. There's nothing in social media. I'm not making like enough money to where I got to be like, hey, I'm just going to stay here and be
I got
sit
you.
there and let the
I
tsunami
got
get it.
you. Yeah.
So yeah, but that's I'll say at Live Live Online on Instagram. Also Azrael Media, AZRAEL media on Instagram on AzraelMedia.com. Yeah, so that's probably the best way to
All
reach me.
right. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us again. We are out of here.
All right.